The night I caught my wife, I wasn't supposed to be home. That's the part that never leaves me. Not the image, not the silence that followed, not even the way my chest felt like it had been split open from the inside. It's the simple fact that if I had stuck to my pride for just one more hour, I would have never known. And maybe that would have been easier. But I didn't come home early because I was suspicious. I came home to apologize. It started with something stupid. It always does, doesn't it? A small comment, a careless tone, one of those arguments that doesn't even have a clear beginning, just a slow buildup of tension that finally snaps. Her name is Vanessa. We'd been married for 6 years. Not perfect, but real. We had built something steady. Routine mornings, shared groceries, inside jokes that no one else would understand. That morning, I broke that rhythm. She had asked me something simple. Are you going to be late again tonight? I didn't even look up from my phone. I don't know. Probably. She sighed. Not loud, not dramatic. Just enough. That sigh did something to me. Maybe I was already stressed. Maybe I was tired of work. Maybe I just didn't want to feel like I was failing at home too. What's that supposed to mean? I snapped. She looked at me, surprised. It doesn't mean anything. I just asked. You always do this. I cut her off. Every time I'm busy, it's like I'm doing something wrong. I didn't say that, she replied calmly, but her eyes had changed. I just miss you being around. That should have been my cue to soften, to listen. Instead, I doubled down. Well, I'm working. That's what I do. Or would you rather I sit at home all day? The moment the words left my mouth, I knew they were wrong. But pride doesn't let you take things back. It pushes you forward. She went quiet. That kind of quiet that fills the whole room. Forget it, she said finally. Just go. And I did. I grabbed my keys, walked out, and slammed the door harder than I needed to. Work that day felt off. You ever try to focus when your mind keeps replaying something you wish you could undo? Every time I opened my laptop, I saw her face. Not angry, not shouting, just disappointed. That was worse. By noon, I wasn't even pretending to work anymore. I sat there staring at my phone, thinking about texting her. Sorry. Just one word. Easy. But my thumb hovered over the screen and didn't move. Because a part of me was still holding on to that stupid pride. She sighed first. She made it a thing. She could have just left it alone. That's how I justified it. But justification doesn't sit well with your conscience. It keeps poking at you. By 3 p.m., I gave up fighting it. I grabbed my keys, told my boss I wasn't feeling well, and left early. I decided I was going to do it properly. Not just a text. Not just a quick, my bad. I stopped at a small shop on the way home and bought her favorite chocolate. The one she always pretends she doesn't want but finishes in one sitting. I even thought about flowers, but it felt too cliché. The whole drive home, I rehearsed what I was going to say. I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. You didn't deserve it. It felt right. For once, I wasn't trying to win. I just wanted to fix things. I remember feeling almost relieved. Like I was about to close the gap that had opened between us that morning. I didn't know I was driving straight into something that would tear it wide open. When I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. It wasn't obvious. Nothing dramatic. Just a feeling. Maybe it was because her car was there, but the house looked too still. No music. No TV sound drifting out. Nothing. I shook it off. You're overthinking. I grabbed the chocolate, took a breath, and walked to the door. It wasn't locked. That should have been my first warning. Vanessa always locks the door. Always. Still, I pushed it open. Vanessa? I called out, stepping inside. No answer. I closed the door behind me. My heart started to beat a little faster. Babe. Then I heard it. A sound from upstairs. Not loud, not clear, but enough. At first, my brain tried to misinterpret it. Tried to make it something harmless. Maybe she's on the phone. Maybe the TV is on upstairs. Maybe. Then it came again. And this time, there was no mistaking it. A voice. A man's voice. Low. Close. Intimate. Everything inside me went cold. For a second, I just stood there, frozen. Because once you accept what that sound means, there's no going back. I felt my grip tighten around the chocolate in my hand. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was pounding, slow, heavy, like each beat was trying to break through my chest. I started walking toward the stairs. Each step felt unreal, like I wasn't in my own body anymore, like I was watching myself move. Halfway up, I heard her, Vanessa, her voice, soft, familiar, and completely wrong in that moment. That's when something inside me snapped. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. I reached the top of the stairs and walked down the hallway. The bedroom door was slightly open, just enough. I pushed it. Time doesn't slow down like people say. It doesn't freeze or stretch or give you a chance to process. It hits you all at once. A single, overwhelming wave. She was there, in our bed, with him, sheets tangled, faces too close. A scene so ordinary in any other context and so devastating in mine. For a moment, no one moved. Then Vanessa saw me. Her eyes widened. Everything changed in an instant. "Wait!" she started, her voice breaking. The man turned, scrambling, trying to pull away, to cover himself, to disappear. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. I didn't shout. I didn't lunge. I didn't even step forward. I just stood there, holding a box of chocolate, like an idiot. I was coming home to apologize, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it didn't belong to me. Vanessa stared at me, tears already forming. "It's not what it looks like." I let out a small, hollow laugh. "That's exactly what it looks like." The man tried to speak. "Look, I didn't know." "Get out," I said, not loud, not aggressive. But something in my tone made him move. Fast. He grabbed his clothes and rushed past me, not meeting my eyes. I didn't stop him. I didn't care about him. My world had already narrowed down to one person. Vanessa. She had pulled the sheet around herself now, as if modesty mattered. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "Let me explain." I looked at her, really looked, and I realized something that hurt more than what I had just seen. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a mistake that started today. This had history. "Explain what?" I asked quietly. "How long?" She hesitated. That was my answer. "How long, Vanessa?" 3 months. 3 months. While we were still laughing, still eating dinner together, still sleeping in the same bed. 3 months. I nodded slowly. "Who is he?" She swallowed. "Someone from the gym." Of course. A stranger. Someone who didn't know her the way I did. Someone who hadn't built a life with her. And yet, somehow, he had replaced me. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said quickly. It started small and then you kept choosing it." I finished. Tears were streaming down her face now. "I was lonely," she said. "You were always working, always busy." I felt something rise in my chest then. Not rage. Not exactly. Something deeper. "So you replaced me?" I asked. "No, it wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" She didn't have an answer, because there isn't one that makes sense. Not one that makes it right. I looked down at the chocolate in my hand. Crushed now, melted slightly from the heat of my grip. I placed it on the dresser. "I bought this for you," I said. She stared at it like it was something foreign. I was going to say sorry. I continued. "For this morning." Her face crumpled. "Don't. Please don't." But I guess I was the only one trying to fix things. "That's not true," she cried. "I didn't want this. I didn't plan this. But you did it anyway." Silence. Heavy. Final. I turned toward the door. "Where are you going?" she asked, panic in her voice. I paused, and for a moment, I considered it. Staying, talking, trying to salvage something. But then I realized something important. You can't fix something that the other person has already let go of, even if they haven't admitted it yet. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I can't stay here." "Please," she whispered, "don't leave like this." I looked back at her one last time. "At least I'm leaving," I said. I didn't stay and lie. That hit her. I could see it. But it didn't change anything. Nothing could. I walked out of that house the same way I walked in, except everything was different. The air felt heavier. The world felt quieter, like something inside me had been turned off. I got into my car and just sat there, hands on the wheel, not moving, not thinking, just existing. It's strange how quickly a life can change. One moment, you're planning an apology. The next, you're questioning everything you thought was real. I didn't cry. Not then. That came later. That night, I just sat there until the sun started to go down. And when I finally drove away, I didn't look back. People always ask what hurts the most in moments like that. Is it the betrayal? The image? The lies? For me, it was the timing. Because I wasn't coming home angry. I wasn't coming home suspicious. I was coming home ready to be better. And somehow, I was already too late. Weeks passed, then months. I moved out, filed for divorce. We spoke a few times, mostly about logistics. Each conversation felt like talking to a stranger wearing a familiar face. She apologized. A lot. Said she regretted it. Said it didn't mean anything. But that's the thing about actions. They always mean something. Even when people don't want them to. I never asked about the other man again. He was irrelevant. The real damage wasn't him. It was the choice she made. Over and over again. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that day. About how close I was to a different outcome. If I had stayed at work. If I had sent that text instead. If I had come home an hour later. Would anything have changed? Or would I just be living in a lie for longer? I don't know. But I do know this. Catching her wasn't the moment my marriage ended. It was just the moment I finally saw the truth. And the truth doesn't always come when you're ready for it. Sometimes it shows up the night you decide to do the right thing, with a box of chocolate in your hand, and an apology that never gets said. Good, because this kind of story actually gets stronger when it breathes. I'll continue and expand it into a full-length, higher-attention narrative, adding depth, backstory, emotional turns, and a more powerful arc. I didn't cry that night. That part always surprises people when I tell them. They expect some dramatic breakdown. Some moment where I collapse in the car, screaming, punching the steering wheel, begging the universe to rewind time. But no, what I felt was worse. Numb. The kind of numb that makes everything feel distant, like you're watching your own life through a screen. I drove without thinking, without direction, just letting the road decide where I ended up. At some point, I parked outside a random convenience store. I don't even remember choosing it. I just sat there, engine off, staring straight ahead, and that's when the memories started. The problem with betrayal isn't just the act itself. It's how it rewrites everything that came before it. Suddenly, every moment becomes suspicious. Every laugh feels staged. Every "I love you" starts to sound like a lie. I remember the night we first met. It was at a friend's birthday dinner. I wasn't even supposed to go, but something pushed me out of the house that night. Vanessa walked in late. Simple black dress. No effort to stand out, yet somehow she did anyway. I remember thinking she looked calm, like someone who knew exactly who she was. We ended up sitting next to each other by coincidence. Or at least that's what I used to believe. We talked the entire night. About everything and nothing. Work, music, childhood memories, random opinions that didn't matter. There was no pressure, no performance, just ease. By the end of the night, I knew I wanted to see her again. And I did, over and over. Those early days were simple. Late night drives. Cheap food that somehow tasted better when we shared it. Long conversations that stretched into silence without ever becoming awkward. We built something real. Not flashy. Not perfect. But solid. Or at least, I thought it was. A car door slammed somewhere nearby, pulling me back to present. I blinked, realizing I had been sitting there for over an hour. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. I stared at the screen as it lit up again and again. Call, call, call. Then a message. Please answer. Please. Another. I'm so sorry. Just let me explain. I turned the phone face down. Because there are moments when explanations don't matter. and that was one of them. I ended up at a hotel that night. Nothing fancy. Just somewhere to exist without thinking. The room felt unfamiliar in a way that made everything worse. Because for the first time in years, I was alone. No Vanessa in the next room. No shared routine. No sense of home. Just silence. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally felt something crack. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a slow, painful break. And the tears came. Quiet at first, then heavier. Not just for what I had lost, but for what I thought I had. Because the hardest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I had already lost her long before that night. I just didn't know it. The next few days blurred together. Calls from her, messages, voicemails, apologies layered on top of more apologies. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you. That one always stood out. Because if she loved me, then what was all of that? I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I genuinely didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone who has completely changed the way you see them? A week later, I went back to the house. Not to reconcile, not to talk things through, just to get my things. She was there, sitting on the couch like she hadn't moved in days. When she saw me, she stood up immediately. Her eyes were red, swollen. She looked smaller. "Hi," she said softly. I nodded. "I'm just here to grab some stuff." She hesitated. "Can we talk?" I paused, not because I wanted to, but because I knew this moment was inevitable. 5 minutes, I said. That was generous. Too generous. We sat across from each other. Same room, same furniture. But everything felt different. I ended it, she said quickly, with him. That night, it's over. I nodded. It didn't move me. I blocked him. Deleted everything. I swear. "Vanessa," I interrupted gently. "You don't have to prove anything to me anymore." That hit her. "I'm trying to fix this," she said, her voice breaking. "You can't fix this," I replied calmly. "Yes, I can. We can go to therapy. We can start over." "You didn't just make a mistake," I said. I leaned forward slightly, not angry, just clear. "You built something with someone else while we were still married." Silence. "I was lonely," she whispered again. "And I was busy trying to build a life for us," I said. She flinched. "I didn't know how to reach you anymore," she continued. "You were always working, always tired." "So you found someone who had more time?" I asked. "It wasn't about that." "Then what was it about?" She opened her mouth, closed it, because again there was no answer that made sense. I stood up. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I just want my things." "Are you really going to leave?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice again. I looked at her, and for the first time since that night, I felt something clear. Not anger, not sadness, just certainty. "Yes." Tears rolled down her face again. "We can fix this," she whispered. I shook my head. "You can't fix broken trust with promises," I said, "because the problem isn't what you say now. It's what you did when I wasn't looking." That was the truth she couldn't escape, and neither could I. The divorce process was quiet. No screaming matches. No dramatic courtroom moments. Just paperwork. Signatures. Endings written in ink. We divided everything like strangers. Furniture. Accounts. Memories. All reduced to decisions. Who gets what? What stays? What goes? It felt clinical. Like dismantling something that used to be alive. Months passed. Life moved on the way it always does. Slowly at first. Then all at once, I focused on work, on rebuilding routines, on learning how to exist without the version of life I had grown used to. Some days were easier. Some weren't. There were nights I still replayed everything. Not the moment I caught her, but the moments before. The signs I missed. The distance I ignored, the conversations we didn't have. Because as much as I hated what she did, I couldn't pretend everything was perfect before it happened. We had cracks, small ones, but real. The difference is I was trying to fix them. She was escaping them. And that's where everything broke. About 6 months later, I ran into her, completely by accident, a grocery store, of all places. She looked different, not in a dramatic way, just quieter. When she saw me, she froze. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked over. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Awkward, polite, like two people who used to know each other. "How have you been?" she asked. "Good," I said. "You?" She nodded. "I'm okay." There was a pause, heavy with everything unsaid. "I'm really sorry," she said again. I believed her this time, not because her words had changed, but because time had. "I know," I said, and I did. She wasn't lying, but that didn't change anything. "I think about it every day," she added. About that night, I looked at her for a moment. Then I said something I hadn't said before. "I don't." She blinked, surprised. "I thought I would," I continued, "but I don't." That wasn't entirely true. I remembered it, but it didn't control me anymore. It didn't define my days. "What do you think about?" she asked quietly. I gave a small shrug, moving forward. And that was the difference between us now. She was still looking back. I wasn't. We said goodbye shortly after that. No drama, no lingering, just closure. Real closure. Not the kind people pretend to have, the kind you feel. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't back then. Catching her wasn't the worst part of that night. It was a turning point. The moment everything became clear. Painful, yes, but necessary. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come gently. It comes all at once, uninvited, unforgiving, and it forces you to see things exactly as they are, not as you hoped they were, not as you believed they were, but as they actually are. And here's the part most people don't expect me to say. I don't hate her. I don't even regret loving her. What I regret is ignoring the distance when it started growing, because relationships don't break in one night. They break in silence, in missed conversations, in small moments where connection should have been rebuilt but wasn't. She made her choice, a series of them, actually, and I made mine, to walk away, to rebuild, to move forward. But every now and then, I think about that version of me, walking up those stairs, holding a box of chocolate, ready to apologize, ready to fix things, not knowing what waited on the other side of that door. And I realized something. That man wasn't weak. He wasn't late. He wasn't foolish. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do, trying. And even though it didn't save the marriage, it saved something else. Me. Because I didn't leave that house as a man who gave up. I left as a man who showed up, who tried, who chose honesty over comfort. And sometimes that's the only closure you ever really get. So if you're listening to this and you're holding on to pride and you're delaying that apology and you're thinking, I'll fix it later, don't wait. Not because it will always save the relationship, but because it will save you from wondering, what if? I went home that night to apologize, and I walked away with the truth. And in a strange, painful way, that truth set me free.